Okay, let's begin our greeting and warm welcome to the last installment of the five-part lecture series titled The Human Condition of Buddhist Perspective, featuring Dr. Louis Lancaster, organized by the Department of Religious Study at the University of West. I'm Miro Sakya and the chair of the Religious Study Department. I would like to express my gratitude to all those who participated in this five-part lecture series, which contributed to the success of the event. And it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, Professor Louis Lancaster. In today's lecture, Dr. Lancaster will focus on the topic, learning to respond to the human condition, in which he will shed light on developing the capacity to respond to the human experience from the Buddhist perspective. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Professor Lancaster.
Thank you very much, Miroj, and for all that you've done to organize this series of lectures. I appreciate it very much. Thanks to all of the people who have been attending them. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. And this is the last one of this series. So I look forward to your questions. I've titled this lecture, Learning to Respond to the Human Condition. So we take one last trip with the young Shakyamuni as he drives his chariot through the city. Having received messages about illness, old age, and death during his outings, he must have been subdued and anxious about what he's going to see next. When the last messenger does appear before him, it's a surprise. Instead of another painful reminder of the nature of the human condition, he sees a tranquil, focused person observing all that is passing by him. Shakyamuni is amazed to see such quiet contemplation, especially since he is in a disturbed and restless state of mind from his previous messages. Asking who this person is, Shakyamuni is at first disdainful. How can someone sit so calmly when looking at the human condition? We can imagine Shakyamuni's thoughts as if they mirror our own. We are often like Shakyamuni, unable to accept a calm response to life's challenges. And so we react to such calmness with accusations, dismissal. Doesn't this calm one know that health will give way to illness, youth to old age, and life to death? Is the calm one deluded, or worse, mentally unbalanced? Surely no sane person can look at the human condition and not be in danger of falling into despair. We're sure that no one with any sense of reality can do anything but groan when faced with such knowledge. It's like seeing someone who's happy when we're sad. We want to go up to them and ask, don't you know what's going on in the world? Now, in our present time, to the calm one, we might ask, haven't you seen the news? All the trouble spots around the world? all the sites of accidents, tornadoes, floods, bank failures, pandemics, climate change, crime, gun violence. Being calm. Aren't you living in denial? Shutting out reality? Just living with delusion and illusory notions? Well, with questions like these, it turns out that this fourth great messenger may be the greatest challenge of all, much more difficult to understand than any of the first three. When Shakyamuni looked at the person sitting in calm repose in the face of illness, old age, and death, his wonderment is understandable. How many of us feel that you can't get up in the morning and drive to work and deal with colleagues and difficult issues in some removed state of mind? Where and how can we have calmness in the bustle of lives that seem to have too little time for all the tasks that must be performed? So in one way, the idea of dealing with life in a calm manner seems impossible. And we just abandon any attempt to do so. Instead, we project the idea that it's only doable in some special place like a monastery. I've often been told that my profession as a professor has allowed me to live in such a place, an ivory tower, where calm study and deep thinking are possible. It saddens me to have to report, as one who has lived for decades in universities, they are difficult places. There is just as much envy, jealousy, anger, greed on the campuses as in the world. And even monks and nuns in monasteries have to live with disturbing problems when they encounter colleagues as well as followers. As the first three messengers told Shakyamuni, no one escapes the trials, the pains, the disappointments of the human condition. And yet, here we are, with the fourth great messenger, sitting in calm repose. Is it possible that the message has value? Is there some way we can be calm and effective in our response to the human condition and find a way to do it in our normal way of life? Now, Kobe Bryant was one of the greatest players in basketball history. And he revealed that when he was, as he put it, in the zone, he was at his best as a player. Now, the fans came to look for signs of this zone, and they delighted in seeing him do wonders on the court. No one shouted at him to get out of the zone. Now, while in the zone, he described the experience of being in a state where there was no arena, no shouting fans, no basketball, no hoop, no scoring. There was just a sense of being at one with the whole environment. And while he was in this state of mind, he seldom missed a shot or misdirected a pass. Now, no one in the stands was yelling, "Get with it, try harder, focus on the ball, remember the play outline, be aggressive." You're kidding me. You can't play professional basketball in a state of ease. No, no one shouted that. Instead, the fans would start to chant encouragement. In the zone, in the zone. They were very aware that Kobe in the zone was playing in an inspired and superior fashion. Now, how is it that we can accept the power of calmness on a basketball court, yet find it difficult to accept any kind of zone when dealing with the human condition? We have only to turn on television and see what is newsworthy and acceptable for airing. That is, problems, angers, dangers. Seldom a report that shows someone in the zone of calmness. Our choice of movies and television series show that the highest ratings belong to shows that deal with murder, robbery, drugs, illegal actions, large amounts of money. Not so much focus on solutions or people who live constructive lives. So the question when facing the fourth great messenger is, how does one take the practices that lead to serenity and calm acceptance and make them work in everyday life? How can one hold on to the zone throughout an entire day? Kobe Bryant admitted that all too often his zone lasted for a short time. And then he was back in the arena, pushing his body to excel, sweating, and worried about the outcome, and playing at a lower level. Now, in the opening of the Heart Sutra, we do not find the Buddha, but rather the main figure before us is like the fourth messenger of Shakyamuni. It is Avalokiteshvara, a bodhisattva who is the messenger. The sutra opens with him looking down and contemplating the human condition. When viewing all of the world before him, he has the insight that the aspects of experience are momentary, fleeting, empty of an enduring quality. They're certainly not the way he had previously understood them to be. At that moment, when he's aware of that all the aspects of experience are empty, he ceases to suffer. Now, reaching this state of awareness is as demanding as Kobe Bryant entering into a zone. If we accept the idea that there is momentariness and constant change, how can we learn to live with that reality? I think the great problem that besets us is we do not have the experience of our bodies and thoughts undergoing constant and complete change in a millisecond. I'm not sure anybody can experience a momentary change. It happens so rapidly that we have no way to have the experience of, I just completely changed in this moment. Our brain is not set up to give us this ability to spot the very moment of change. So how fast can I detect that I am changing? Even looking at pictures taken a month apart, I don't always spot the change in my body. The reality of my changing body only takes place on an experiential level when I compare pictures that are taken 5 or even 10 years apart. So when I line up my old driver's license of the past or passports and look at the photos, it's obvious that major changes have occurred. So I'm able to detect change over long periods of time, just not right now in every moment of this talk. And at best, the ability to detect change is dependent on photographs. It's not my memory that I can call upon to remind me of change. It's photographs that contain the proof of change. In other words, when it comes to experiencing change, I'm pretty slow, and I'm dependent on external aids. Well, it's not all bad news. The inability of our senses to have an experience of millisecond changes is in one way a gift. It allows us to survive and not be overwhelmed with a flood of sensory data that would swamp us. Well, we all know weather this year in California has given repeated instances of floods that overflow riverbanks and levees. And in a somewhat similar fashion, if we could have the experience of changes happening to us in every moment, the amount of data flowing into our brain would outstrip our ability to process it. And so my direct experience of change is operating at about the 5-year speed aided by photography. It is certainly not second to second. However, even if my perception is slow, there is no way to deny that changes are taking place that fall below the level of immediate awareness. The Buddhists remind us that even if we operate in slow time, we need to always be aware that change has quite another speed. Now, in the Abhidharma text, the commentators had noticed this problem. They listed 4 divisions of a momentary thought. Origination, when the thought arises. Endurance, when the thought persists for a millisecond. Decay, when the thought is finished. And dissolution, when the thought is completely gone. Now, this process occurs at a very rapid speed. So for that reason, the momentary and ever-changing rise and fall of mental states, as seen by the compilers of the Abhidharma, are thought to be beyond our thought process. Beyond our thought process. We can't think that fast. And so what appears to be a world made up of substance is in fact just a series of moments that rise and fall with speed beyond our ability to see and think about it. Our thoughts are just a continuum that is so fast that things appear to have substance. It's just like a movie shows us discrete pictures, but at a speed that allows us to perceive objects that move across the screen, seeming to be enduring and unchanging over time. Moving pictures is just an example of something that we can perceive. And in doing so, we can comprehend things that are outside the realm of our perception. So, what is gained by having a time when we are calm? On one level, it gives us the freedom to see that there are always options in our response to the human condition. If we believe there is only one way to respond to a problem, then we will have given that response an essence, an existence that says this and only this. The Buddhist canons again and again point out the danger of believing in the fixed nature of anything. The response that I take to be the one and the only is subject to conditions, like all existence. What works in one situation may be destructive in another. So the human condition has endless variations, and they cannot all be effectively managed with fixed solutions. It only has meaning if we can experience it. I've come to see that one cannot deal with the human condition through a detached and impersonal view. We are immersed in humanness, and therefore responding must be a very personal experience, not a third person one. But we can, like Kobe, seek to be in the zone, living to our highest capacity. So finally, returning to the question of learning how to respond to the human condition, it seems that this is best accomplished with calmness and a sense of oneness. When Shakyamuni sees the calm one, he notices to his great surprise and disbelief that the person has a faint smile on his lips. So I like to think that a part of our response to the human condition needs to have just a touch of humor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou, for delivering an exceptional and profound lecture today. And our question answer session will begin now. We kindly request that you type your question in the chat box